The day Emma walked into that boardroom, nobody stood up to greet her. They barely looked at her. The woman who had once helped build the company from nothing was now treated like a stranger inside her own business. She quietly took a seat near the end of the long conference table and lowered her eyes. She had learned that silence often revealed more truth than arguments ever could. Across the room, her husband Daniel entered with confident steps, wearing his usual expensive smile. But this time, he was not alone. Beside him walked Sophia, a glamorous woman dressed as though the meeting were a fashion show instead of one of the most important business negotiations of the year. Daniel proudly introduced her as his new executive advisor, although everyone in the room already knew she was much more than that. Nobody dared question him. He controlled the company. He controlled the board. He controlled the people who depended on his approval. The directors exchanged uncomfortable glances but remained silent. Emma looked at Sophia only once before calmly turning her attention back to the documents in front of her. She refused to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing pain on her face. Inside, however, every heartbeat reminded her that betrayal always hurts most when it comes from the person you trusted with your entire future. Years earlier, Emma and Daniel had started their first business inside a tiny rented office with second-hand furniture and unpaid bills stacked on every desk. Emma worked through nights creating business plans while Daniel searched for investors during the day. They dreamed together. They struggled together. When the company finally became successful, people praised Daniel as a brilliant businessman because he enjoyed standing in front of cameras while Emma preferred staying behind the scenes. She never cared about recognition. She believed that building a happy family mattered more than public attention. Slowly, everything changed. Success brought powerful friends, endless parties, expensive trips, and people who admired wealth more than loyalty. Daniel became addicted to applause. He began listening to strangers instead of the woman who had sacrificed everything beside him. Sophia appeared during one of those luxury events. She knew exactly what Daniel wanted to hear. She admired his success. She praised every decision he made. She laughed at every joke, even the ones that were not funny. Over time, compliments became influence, and influence slowly became control. Emma noticed the distance growing between them long before Daniel admitted anything. Late-night meetings became common. Weekend business trips suddenly happened every month. Messages were hidden. Conversations became shorter. Every attempt Emma made to save the marriage ended with Daniel accusing her of being insecure or overly emotional. Eventually she stopped defending herself. Not because she believed his words, but because she realized that people determined to misunderstand you will never listen anyway. The meeting that morning was supposed to approve the company's largest international partnership. Millions of dollars depended on the decision. Daniel stood confidently at the front of the room explaining the future of the business while Sophia smiled proudly beside him as though she already owned part of the company. Several executives quietly noticed Emma sitting alone, but nobody approached her. They assumed she had already lost everything. Daniel intentionally avoided looking in her direction. He wanted everyone to believe that she no longer mattered. When the presentation ended, he thanked Sophia for her outstanding contribution. The room filled with polite applause. Emma remained perfectly still. Her silence somehow made the applause sound empty. After the meeting ended, people slowly left the room. Daniel walked past Emma without saying a single word. Sophia stopped beside her chair and offered a small smile that carried more arrogance than kindness. "You should learn when it's time to let go," she whispered before following Daniel out of the room. Emma simply folded her papers and quietly walked away. She did not answer because some battles are won long before the first word is spoken. That evening Emma returned to a modest apartment overlooking the river. Few people knew she had moved out of the family mansion months earlier. She had left quietly after realizing that love cannot survive where respect has already disappeared. The apartment was simple but peaceful. There were no arguments, no pretending, no loneliness hidden behind luxury. She made herself a cup of tea and opened an old notebook filled with handwritten business ideas from the earliest days of the company. Every page reminded her that she had never built her future around Daniel. She had built it around hard work, patience, and integrity. Those qualities had not disappeared simply because someone else had forgotten their value. The following week the board announced another major meeting with international investors. Daniel planned to finalize the largest agreement in company history. Newspapers praised his leadership. Financial magazines predicted another record-breaking year. Sophia appeared beside him in interviews, smiling confidently as though she had always belonged there. Meanwhile, Emma quietly spent her days meeting people who had believed in her long before the company became famous. Former partners welcomed her warmly. Retired executives thanked her for the kindness she had shown them years earlier. Small business owners remembered how she had helped them during difficult times without asking for anything in return. One by one, old relationships slowly came back to life. Emma never complained about Daniel. She never exposed his personal life. She simply listened, learned, and patiently rebuilt the trust that money alone could never buy. At the same time, Daniel became increasingly confident. He believed Emma had accepted defeat. He assumed she had no influence left inside the business world. Sophia encouraged that belief every day. She convinced him that the company no longer needed the woman who had helped create it. "People follow power," she often said. "And power belongs to you now." Daniel smiled every time he heard those words. He had no idea how quietly the future was already changing. A respected international investment group requested one final private meeting before signing the contract. Daniel considered it a simple formality. He instructed the board to prepare the conference hall for the announcement. The directors eagerly agreed, expecting another historic victory. Emma received the same invitation as a founding shareholder. She calmly placed the letter on her desk without showing any emotion. She looked through her apartment window as the evening sun disappeared behind the city skyline. For the first time in many months, a gentle smile appeared on her face. It was not the smile of revenge. It was the quiet confidence of someone who had remained honest while everyone else underestimated her. She knew patience often speaks louder than anger, and sometimes the people who seem to lose everything are simply preparing for the moment when the truth finally walks into the room.